Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 40, the big 4-0 of
40
the
episodes for 40k. We're done. The show's over.
The 40k Badcast. That's right, we're back. My name is Dan Boyd, and I am joined by the one and only, the gravy to my mashed potatoes, Cranberry McWishbone.
Oh, you got the seasonal nickname thing down pat.
Whoa! It's all happening. It is the day before Thanksgiving 2018. That's American Thanksgiving, a.k.a. the real Thanksgiving. And I want to welcome you to the two newest characters on the 40k Badcast, Sick Dan and Sick Campbell.
I'm actually a recurring character, believe it or not.
Yeah, Sick Dan has made a couple of appearances on the old show. And yeah, I'm having a great time, man. I had to travel while sick last week.
Sweet.
That's really cool when you wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning because you have to leave your apartment at 6 a.m. to get to get across the county to the airport, and you're like, oh, cool, I can't breathe. This is fun. Yeah, it was great. I think I tweeted there's a travel hack of get sick before you travel so you can't get sick while you travel.
Galaxy brain thought right there.
Yeah, right.
See, I have the cool thing of taking a week off, coming back to finding my work being actually factually on fire, and then being like, cool, I'm sick. Now how much work can I do here?
That sounds like fun. But
yeah, it's extremely fun.
One aspect of this show that the listeners, because they can't see us, don't know is that we're both drinking right now.
Woohoo!
Time for a sippy sip. Listen to those mouth sounds. Excellent. Okay, so what's going on, man? How you doing? How you feeling?
I'm feeling kind of like hell, but you know, things could be worse. Well, I did say they're actually factually on fire. That is a metaphorical fire.
So not factually, actually.
Actually metaphorically on fire, I guess is it, but that doesn't rhyme. If you can find a word that rhymes metaphorically for me right there. Euphorically, metaphorically on fire. There we go. But yeah, I've actually gotten a little bit of hobby stuff in. I took the week off for Fallout 76 because I'm an adult who takes time off from games.
Wait. You took a week off from work to play video games?
Not the first time.
Okay, when you told me that you were taking a week off to play Fallout 76, I thought you were taking a week off from hobbying.
I kind of did that too.
But I didn't know that you were like having a week off, a staycation. Fuck yeah, dude. Get after it.
And Anne took the week off too, so we just played together the entire time.
You guys had a fucking staycation. That's awesome.
We had a staycation. We got to go adventuring through West Virginia together, and it was a lot of fun. You know, some people are talking shit about the game right now, but the way we were playing it was a very good time.
I saw that they included the Mothman in the game, which I'm a fan of.
I have made omelets from his eggs. I don't know where they come out of.
His ovipositor or his Mothwoman's ovipositor. Doesn't matter. Who cares? I have some life news.
Oh, yeah?
I got my motorcycle license.
Oh, Lord. So,
listeners, when this podcast suddenly stops, you'll know why.
So basically, I'm expecting the next year you'd either die horrifically, which would be a bummer, or at Adepticon for you to, or rather at Nova, for you to roll into the friendly on your motorcycle like in Bye Bye Birdie.
Oh my God, wouldn't that be something? That would I would get so kicked out, but it might be worth it. No, the one good thing about dying on a motorcycle is it will probably be quick. Okay, cool. Well, I don't have a motorcycle yet, and I don't even know if it's going to happen, but just wanted you to know that.
Yeah, I got no life news on par with that.
All right, well, let's get into the aspects here and talk about what's on our hobby radar. I have been a bit of a busy boy, Campbell.
You have?
Yeah, I finished up my apothecary, which I posted pictures on my Twitter, and I'm very happy with that.
Looks dope as hell.
Last night, I finished up fixing all of the chips on my Guardsman, my Steel Legion. It took me 2 nights to do, but I went through every model, and I, gave it a quick 360 and looked for glints of pewter coming through, and I got rid of all the chips, and I re-varnished all of the ones that I fixed.
Whew. So, I'm honestly impressed that only took 2 days. I still don't have the heart to do that for my Ultramarines.
It doesn't really take that long. And I actually did like a couple of updates on some of the paint jobs, some of the older ones. Like I had I just hit my microphone. I'm turning into you. I had the Officer of the Fleet model from the Regimental Advisors. If you remember that guy. Yeah, he is. Yeah. And I painted him a while ago, probably 10 years ago. And the paint job wasn't bad, but it was just showing its age. So I touched up the white and touched up the blue and made him pop a little more. And I'm really happy about that. And then I, went through and fixed all of the models in that range. And there's a reason for that. I'm going to get to the reason when we talk about games played. But I also started in on my Redemptor.
Oh, sweet.
Which was a ton of fun to build. And I think is probably going to paint up pretty quick. I mean, it's big, but it's not that big. And it doesn't have nearly as many edges as a repulsor does. And you know how much I love edging, but...
I know you do. You are an enthusiast after all.
But it does take a while if you have to edge everything.
Well, also with Dreadnoughts, you've got a lot of... I don't know how similar it is to the old style box knot in that it has a lot of like metal, mechanical, like skeletal type stuff in the back of the legs and all that stuff. And that goes really quick. That's just, color, wash, dry brush, you're done.
Yep, that's exactly how it's going to work. I think it'll paint it pretty quickly. I put the first base coat down on it last night, and I am excited to get into it some more tonight or maybe over the holiday here. And what about you, bud? You've been working on anything besides tooling around in the forests of West Virginia? Do you get to go to like the Monongahela region of West Virginia in Fallout 76 or what? What's up?
I don't know the actual geography of West Virginia very well, although
there's a lot of hills and mountains. There
are a lot of hills and mountains.
Lots of rivers.
There are some beautiful rivers. Some have dried up, some have not. There's a lot of like roadside attraction type things. Yeah, like Canopy Park or whatever is in there.
Is there like a state fair?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty early one you get to go to and get murdered at.
Cool. Is that one dude who won't shut the fuck up about settlements in the game?
No, although somebody is role-playing as him. I saw a Kotaku article about someone going around with like a soundboard of Preston Garvey things, dressed like him, going up to people and like playing that over local chat.
Oh, that's excellent.
Video games are good, everybody. We did it.
We certainly did. Have you been working on any hobby stuff?
Only a bit, but when I'm looking at my show notes here, it looks like I've done actually a hell of a lot. So back when I started my Empire army, I did like a block of 20 crossbows, all primed black, and I did white and red over them, as you've heard me complain about. This time I primed 10 more, but I did them in white, and I finished them in like 3 days. Like they just went super fast.
Nice.
So that block is now 30 men. It is maxed out. It's good. I also built 10 swordsmen and like a spearman guy and primed them. That's cool. But more importantly, to your interests, I built and painted 10 Goliaths.
Yeah.
And these are the guys using the Forged Weapon packs. I have 20.
You have 20.
I have the cool 20. I've got the Forged Weapons pack on these guys, the regular set of the other guys.
You've got 5 more than I have done.
Well, because I bashed all 10 of my Goliaths at once. You only bashed 5 of your Orlocks at a time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the difference is I actually really like painting these guys. I love painting skin.
Okay.
Especially like big, bulgy, defined, muscly skin, because you can get some really nice highlights and very stark contrast that looks really good up close and at a distance, which isn't always the case. And the way I paint their armor is just like some sponging and some weathering and stuff like that. That's really fun and gets a really good result pretty quickly. So I painted those guys up. I'm super happy with how they look. However, I used weathering powder on like the barrels of some of their guns, on their boots to make them look all sooty and dirty. Then I wash my hands and I brush my teeth, and while I'm flossing, I'm like, what is that disgusting taste? And I look at the floss and it's black because there's still weathering powder stuck in my fingers. It turns out weathering powder tastes terrible.
That's hilarious. You weathered your teeth.
I weathered my teeth.
You're so into fucking weathering that you weathered your teeth.
Yeah, at least I didn't start chipping my teeth.
That's a good... Boom, I have a chipped tooth.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was, it's one of my front teeth, too. I think it's, I think it's the right one, the right primary incisor. I was playing soccer in elementary school, and I was about to score a goal, and some kid shoved me from behind, and I hit my face on the upright. The crossbar, not the crossbar, but the upright of the soccer goal, and and it chipped my tooth and cut my lip, and I cried like a baby.
Ooh, When I was in 8th grade, a kid kicked me in the balls in the soccer court, soccer green. The soccer ball. Yeah, and I got really mad and I beat him up and I got thrown off the team.
Excellent. Hey, check it out. Soccer stories here on the 40k Badcast.
You now have the bulk of my sports stories.
Okay. Did you play any games? Oh, no, I'm asking. Did you play any games? Oh, you're asking?
Okay. I actually had one. I actually played Warhammer 40,000.
Oh, my God. This is the first time in like what? Since Nova?
Since Nova, yeah. No, I'm still kind of in that post-Nova funk and not the smell of the convention center, but actually the feeling. So I
already made that joke today.
Yeah, but not everyone heard it. So it was actually against my dad. It was his birthday recently, so he likes getting a birthday game in with me every year. So he wanted to play as the Valhallans, and I'm like, you know what? I want to try the New York Codex. So I rolled the Blood Axes out, and as a combination of having like a fairly severe head cold, not remembering the rules very well, and having to go back and forth between the Guard Codex and the Orc Codex because I'm not that familiar with either of them, I feel like my enjoyment of the game was partially impinged. I also did not play super well. Like there was a lot of the like, oh, I have the stratagem where I can loot a vehicle when it dies, but it has to be 3 inches to loot it. And I'm like 5 inches from this vehicle that just died. Oh man. It was like a lot of that sort of thing. A lot of like being like, oh yeah, that's how I do this, only after I'd already failed. And although my dice were pretty okay, my tactics were crap and I did not do super well. That being said, it was still fun to, you know, Guard versus Orcs is always a good throwdown.
Oh, it's the best game possible. Or maybe Orcs versus Orcs or Guard versus Guard. But I think Guard versus Orcs is really the best. The 40k at its best. Maybe Tyranids in there too, but you got to have those horde armies. That's when it's the most fun.
Yeah, the closest you get to either like Helm's Deep, Zulu, or Starship Troopers, the book or film, you're gonna have a good time.
It's true.
But yeah, it was a pretty good game. I wish it went a little better for me, but it was fun.
Good. I'm glad you had some dad hammer.
Yeah,
I've actually got 3 games of 40k in.
Good golly.
Yeah, I know, listeners. This is big fucking news.
So give me time to drink.
The first game was against my friend Dylan. It was his first game of 40k in 8th edition. And he
always remember your first.
Brought his Space Wolves. Well, I hope he doesn't remember this one too much because it didn't work out well for him. He brought Space Wolves. He had 4 Dreadnoughts in his list.
Ooh.
Bjorn, Murderfang. Oh, he had 5 Dreadnoughts. My bad. Bjorn, Murderfang, 2 Contemptors, and a Wolfen Dreadnought to go with some... I think intercessors and a couple of characters and some aggressors. And
that's a very gimmicky list.
Yeah, and I had my standard 1,500 point Raven Guard all infantry list. But my all infantry list involves Hellblasters, as we well know. And Hellblasters delete anything, especially Dreadnoughts. So he rolled up and it was just 1 or 2 Dreadnoughts down a turn for him. I think I had my Repulsor in that list too, so it wasn't my standard list, but I did bring my Repulsor, and the Repulsor and the Hellblasters just combined for a Dreadnought murder party. However, Bjorn the Fell-Handed, holy shit, this guy does not die.
No, that's his whole gimmick.
He just doesn't fucking die. I think he weathered 2 full turns of my entire army shooting at him, and he was just like, fuck it, I don't care. It's cool. Dylan was making a ton of the Feel No Pains or whatever they're called saves for him. So it was a lot of fun. It was a good game. It wasn't that close, but it was still a lot of fun. And hopefully Dylan does not get too discouraged by it. But I told him, I was like, hey man, Space Wolves have access to Hellblasters too. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to have to get some.
So does Bjorn's... The last I checked with Bjorn the Fell-Handed, he turned into an objective when he died. Does that still happen?
No. I think he just dies.
Been a few editions.
Heroically, but he just dies, yeah. Then I played a game. I went over to Greggles, his house, last Sunday for a couple of games, and I was exposed to the new Orcs also. And unlike,
I assume he's a little better with them than I am.
Oh, Campbell. Oh, buddy. Yeah, he is. I got trashed by the New Yorks, the new Orcs in this game. It was
the New York DACA Jets.
One, they have shooting now.
Yeah, they do,
and not like good shooting. The Smasher gun. Are you familiar with this gun?
Is that the anti-aircraft one?
No, that's the tractor cannon. The smasher gun is it hits on a 4 because it's grot guns. And they totally revamped like the artillery rules for grot guns or mech guns or whatever.
Yeah, now they're like single 6-wound models instead of like a.
Yeah, they're just like you can just take a large base like a Redemptor base or something, plop the mech gun on it, put all the grots on it, or don't do that and just put a gun on a base and it gets that's it. There's no more of the shenanigans with killing the crew and then killing it's great. Yeah. It makes perfect fucking sense.
No, I like that a lot. I wish they actually sold the box with a big base to put all the guys on just because I feel like that would look really nice. I've always liked the multi-model artillery base sort of look.
Oh, totally, yeah. So these smasher guns, they have like 48-inch range. They're not indirect fire, thankfully. They have to have a line of sight. But 48-inch range, if they hit, you roll 2d6. You basically rolled a wound on 2d6.
Phew.
Yeah, and if you equal or exceed the target's toughness, it's a -4 and D3 damage.
Jesus.
Yeah. So I was like, fuck that. He pulled out his army. He's like, all right, I have 5 smashes. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm not bringing the repulsor. Because that thing will get fucking chewed up. Yeah. Well, the smashes didn't do too much, actually, because I basically hid everything. But what did do a lot was his war boss. I deployed way too aggressively. I forgot that orcs can potentially advance and then charge. And
reroll that charge.
Yeah. And the war boss got into combat and killed my Gravis captain, who was my warlord, and my Primaris lieutenant. Now, they killed him, but he killed both of them. So it was a pretty good trade. And then he had a unit of boys just get into combat with a bunch of my units, and then I was like shooting at him, and he had all these grot shields. Are you familiar with this?
I love that strategy.
So we didn't play it right, or it just got fact and it's different. Orc Fac, cousin to Big Fac and Big Fac 2, our favorite characters on the show. So this one is if there's a grot unit within 6 inches of an orc unit, and it's between the firing unit and the orc unit who's getting fired at, you can throw mortal wounds. You can take the wounds on the grots instead of the unit that you want to keep alive.
Yeah.
And he did that and tanked a whole turn of shooting from my guys at his orc boy unit who was about to slam into my lines. And I think I conceded on turn 3. I would have been wiped on turn 4.
Well,
it was.
Did you use it more than once? Because you can only use a stratagem once.
No, but it lasts for the whole turn.
Oh, I thought it was just one shooting round.
No, it lasts for the whole turn. So it's pretty good.
1 CP.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It's fucking good. At least I think it lasts for the whole turn. That's how we played it in 1 CP. Excellent thing. So he took Death Skulls, which my favorite type of orc, and their trait is fucking fantastic. So
they have the 6-up field of pain, right?
No, 6-up invulnerable save.
Oh, okay.
So they have a 6-up invulnerable save, and they get to, with every Death Skulls unit, every turn, you can reroll 1 hit and 1 wound and 1 damage roll. You have 3 free rerolls per turn per unit.
Jesus.
It's like Salamanders, but Salamanders only get 1.
Yeah, it's Salamanders, but better. And the Here We Go rule is Black Templars, but better.
Yeah. So, like, holy shit, dude. Like, this is basically, you charge with a orc boys, all the boys attack, and then your Power Claw comes in, and he gets a reroll.
Or if they're shooting your rocket launcher or whatever has that, or a tank bomb or whatever the hell.
Exactly. And then you combine that with Daka Daka Daka,
which is
every 6 explodes. And then there's the more Daka stratagem where so this is something that worked against me. The more Daka stratagem means that it makes it so that 5s and 6s hit and explode. So even if they're at -1 for shooting, like Raven Guard are, they're still hitting on 5s and exploding on 5s and 6s.
Yeah, which is bonkers.
Oh god, it's good. It's so good. Yeah, this Orc Codex is extremely fucking good. And I really want to have an Orc army.
You feeling that green itch?
I want to make a Death Skulls army so bad. I think that their trait is fantastic.
I've got to figure out how to make my blood axes work a little better because, like, again, I've played one game with them. It was all built around mechanized Ardboys in the last 2 editions or whatever.
Yeah.
And they did pretty well for what they were, but I need to kind of reconfigure the list, see what works for this and what doesn't. I've got, a bunch of Mega Armor knobs, bunch of boys. I figure I can add some units of knobs there because I still have like 25 of them left I have to build. So I figure also, like, knobs, since they can loot the vehicle that they ride in, when the vehicle explodes, they'll be able to instantly get a 3-up save, which is really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to actually work on them. Although, when I was looking at my orcs, I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to work in these guys again. I want to paint up some Ludas, use the Daka stratagem on those guys, and just make units disappear. And I realized I painted the muscles differently than I paint them now. Like, on my Goliaths, I'll paint a bicep or whatever, and I'll do the edge highlight right against the shading, so it kind of makes it pop more. While with these orcs, it would look more like a gradient from dark to light from the skin, which looks a little different, which bothers me a tiny bit, but I think I'll get over it.
Okay. Yeah, the orcs are really fucking good, dude. They have so many good stratagems, too. Like, Orc Brigade and Orc Double Battalions are going to be a thing. Just because all the stratagems are so good that you're going to see a lot of that going on. And the brigades are super easy to get to points-wise.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can take these mech guns. The Smasher gun is 31 points a pop.
Jesus.
Right? And then Grot squads are, what?
30 points
30
a pop.
points for 10?
Yeah.
Like, the Orc army... Like, the list-making possibilities of that are fantastic.
I mean, you can brigade as easily as Guard do.
Easier.
Easier?
Far easier.
All right.
30-point troops, 30-point heavy support, and a lot of cheap, fast attack options, too.
Yeah, that's
fucking, what do you call it? The copters? The Def copters? Yeah. Oh, no, dude. Damn. Orcs are good. Real good.
I'm hoping I can take them to Adepticon, but I'm not sure they'll actually survive the trip because it's full of a lot of very fiddly converted vehicles.
Well, I hope you can too. That would be great to see. My third game, I played against Chris, one of Greg's friends, who I had never played before, and he's a really cool guy. I played his Death Guard, which it was a very interesting battle because it was kind of getting late in the day, and I was like, all right, I want to make this quick. So I deployed super aggressively, and I was like, all right, let's hope I get the first turn. And Campbell, I didn't.
Oh, no.
But my guys actually weathered a good amount of fire, and I came out relatively unscathed. And then my Hellblasters opened up and caused a lot of problems for him. And he did not realize how good Hellblasters are. I don't think he'd played Primaris Marines before. And you got to kill them first, y'all.
Yeah.
You got to do it. You see Hellblasters on the table, you fucking kill them.
Hellblasters are just an anti-plague Marine. They're an anti-everything, really, but with Death Guard especially, they are the unit that actually fights back against them pretty well.
Yeah, and I brought my Apothecary to that game.
Cute.
Who sucks.
Cute.
Is really bad, but he was there. He was reviving Hellblasters, and Chris made a point to kill him.
I was looking at the rules to the Mad Doc, or whatever. I think they're probably still called Mad Docs, Pain Boys. And I'm just like, oh, so this is what Apothecaries should do.
What do they do?
I think they basically just give like a 5-up feel no pain to like the unit near them.
Ah, that's really good.
Yeah, it's what Apothecaries used to do in 7th edition.
Yeah.
Chances are I'm wrong. The codex is behind me. I can look it up later. No, don't at me.
No, we'll be fine. Nobody will at you. Nobody listens to this. No, it was a good game. Chris is a really nice guy. He had some really cool painted models, and it was a lot of fun to play against him. Death Guard is always a good matchup for Primaris Marines, so it was a good one.
Almost like they made a starter set out of it.
Almost. So let's move on to new stuff. Now, there's a couple of things that we've already talked about, and one of them being Blackstone Fortress, and the rest of Blackstone Fortress has come out, and we've seen all the models for it, and dude, I really want to play.
Okay, choose your fighter. We've got Captain Space Bulge, Newt Gunray, Birdman,
that's good,
L Double Diary, Pope John Goodman, Grillmaster,
I like that.
Both Metal Husband, and Slamwise and Frito.
Slamwise and Frito are my little kings, my heroes, my strongest boys. And
one of them does have a mini fridge on his back, which is pretty
He's got
great.
a mini fridge and a sniper rifle, and then the other one has a grappling hook and like a bioscanner. And they're my friends. They are invited to my birthday party, and I love them.
They are real, and they are my friends.
And they're strong. Yes, Blackstone Fortress is out. I don't think I'm going to get it, because somebody else is going to get it. I'm just going to fucking mooch.
Well, you're talking to the guy you're going to be mooching that off of, because I already ordered it through my friend Jack. He's opening a game store called the Bolter Hole. Great name.
That's weird, Dylan but good.
Dylan did some of the logo art for it, and yeah, they're opening up for a soft open on Black Friday, and I'm picking it up from him for like 30% off or something like that. So I'm looking forward to getting me some Blackstone Fortress, and I'll hopefully have that painted up by Adepticon so I can play a game with you and
going
whoever
to
else.
The soft opening of the Bolter Hole?
I am going to the soft opening, the soft, supple opening of the Bolter Hole.
Beer number 2.
Solid. I'm still working on the first one because this is like 8%. No,
I love the models in Blackstone Fortress. I love the Warhammer Quest style gaming with a little bit of RPG element added into it. And I remember playing original Warhammer Quest back in the day and enjoying it big time. So I really hope you bring it to Adepticon and we get to have a game night with it, because it looks like a ton of fun.
It really does, and you can play it solo, and I did, like, when I found out you could play it solo, I just had this vision in my head of sitting in a poorly lit room with, like, gothic metal on the background, and me just sitting there playing alone with a fifth of bourbon, and that's how I spent a lot of my early 20s, and I don't really want to play this game that way, but it's cool you can play it that way.
Yeah, I think 10 years ago, 23-year-old Dan would have been really into that. Oh, loneliness sucks, everybody. Anyways.
What do you think is in the Clue-esque envelope? Because it comes with a Clue-esque envelope.
I already know, actually.
Is it a picture of Calvin peeing on the Aquila?
No, it's a picture of Calvin peeing on the Chaos Star.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. It's a picture of Calvin peeing on the Chevy logo.
No, it looks dope as hell. Looking forward to playing it.
No, it seems really cool. The models are fantastic. Gosh, this fucking Chaos Marine models, dude. I cannot
the Chaos Cultists or what?
Oh my God, I fucking forgot. Oh, geez, they have Chaos Cultists. They have Beastmen. These guys, oh, bud, these things are fucking fantastic.
They have You Are Ghouls and Megamind.
They certainly do. Okay. They released Knight Lancers for Adeptus Titanicus.
Cute.
Which people are calling Ad Tit now. And
I do prefer the name on the Discord of Tiny Titan Justification Station.
So they made those. But I know that something came out that you're excited for. Or at least you've professed excitement for.
Tell me what it is, because I forget.
It's the Dark Oath warband from Shadespire.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know they're out already.
I don't remember if they're out, but I've seen pictures of them.
I want to get them because they look dope as hell. I want my big buff muscle family.
Okay. This is where we diverge.
Okay.
I've seen the pictures of these things, and maybe this is just me. I don't think they look that cool.
Okay. That's fine.
Like, compared to the rest of Shadespire, maybe not the Stormcast Eternals, because those look pretty generic. But like the Shadespire stuff is like, even the Chaos stuff is for Shadespire, especially the Zinch stuff, is like really, really cool. These guys, it's just the muscle family. It's the muscle Brady bunch, the muscle bunch.
I'm into the bunches of muscles, you know, like that's why I want this. It's why I want them to be an army too. As I was saying earlier, I really actually like painting skin, and it's a good opportunity to do that. I
don't really like the Conan shit, you know?
I love the Conan shit. I love that Frank Frazetta Conan shit.
It's never been my style.
That's usually like the character type I play in Baldur's Gate and stuff like that, as the two-handed barbarian guy. Like, this is very on brand for me. Okay. I also, I actually like the models better than the art, which is unusual because, like, with the Eyes of the Nine, the Zinch warband, I like the art better than the models because you had, like, the main sorcerer guy doing the cool, Eye of Evil thing with his hand and, with looking all sinister. And then the actual model is just a screaming guy with a stick, which is fine. I just liked the little more subtle posing on the artwork as opposed to the actual sculpts. Well, the sculpts look better for the Dark Oath than the artwork, in my opinion. Well, they continue to nail it with Shadespire models, even though I'm not a huge fan of these ones. And, man, I should probably just buy the fucking goblins and start playing. I mean, here's the thing. If you just paint them, you could use them Blood Bowl. Who the fuck knows? It's like 9 models. They'll paint them quick. I wouldn't paint them black. I'd probably paint them purple, their robes. Hell yeah. Easier. And purple and green works. I can't imagine you'd be sick of painting black by now. Okay, you know what's stupid? Yeah. I was painting this apothecary, and before that, I was painting
the Necromunda guys, and I was just like, why can't I just paint black? I
want to go back to my comfort zone.
I don't have to base coat. All I have to do is like throw one thin coat of Abaddon black over black primer, and I'm done until a highlighting stage, which is whatever. It's edging. I love edging.
It doesn't take long.
Edging enthusiast.
That you are.
I like painting black. What is wrong with me, Campbell?
I don't know what's wrong with you, but maybe you can talk more about what color black you use in our next segment. No,
well,
we're going
the segment after the next segment. But
shit.
Yeah, so
Love
good
that
try.
segue.
Good try. But before we go into talking about hobby stuff, we're going to make a couple of calls real quick. Specifically, duh calls in our most anticipated segment return of the year. We make the call. I don't know. Okay, I have a question for you.
Shoot.
This is not a we make the call question, but a question for you.
This is a separate personal question. Okay, shoot.
Are when you say we make the call, are you spelling call with a K?
I probably should be.
Because I was reading our email, which is rare, but I was. I read it just about every 2 weeks right before we record. So get at me. And you used an acronym, WMDK, a couple of times when you're talking to listeners. So I read that as we make the call, but call with a K. So is that how we're doing it, WMDK?
I guess it is.
Okay, there it is. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, so I have 3 questions.
Okay.
Let's start with number 1. This one is from Andrei Chertov. Chertov?
Oh,
via email.
He is a very cute dog.
Cool.
He sent us pictures of him before.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
If you read the email, you'd know.
Okay, yeah. All right. Here he goes. He says, I know some players have the ability to focus on one army and never stray from that, but I tend to get bored and then excited by new shiny things. So that's how I end up with Necromunda stuff, multiple 40k armies, multiple 30k armies, Titanicus, and then Blackstone Fortress. So how does one stay focused and avoid the pressure of a high hobby backlog?
Probably not the best guy to talk to about this, since I was trying to figure out where on the shelf I'd be able to fit Blackstone Fortress, and I can't make room because now there's boxes on the floor, and it's not like it's even that much stuff, I guess. Anywho, I would say Necromunda stuff is fine because you're only going to paint like 10 models or whatever, a little bit of stuff. It doesn't take that long to do overall, and it is a nice little break in between. But if you want to stick to like one main army and just do little side projects like a Necromunda gang or Shadespire Warband, I think it's important to have an army where you can fit some variety in how you paint and what you paint. Like, this is why I think Eldar armies can be really wonderful for people, because you can do different aspects and they're completely different paint schemes with just a spot color. Or why, even with like Space Marines, why I like, say, if you're doing Dark Angels, you know, you got the main green for the Marines, then you can do black for the bikers, then you can do cream for the Terminators, and you can do white for apothecaries, and you can mix all those colors in between if you're doing like, oh, this is a Venerable Dreadnought, so it's going to be in Deathwing colors or whatever. And I think having opportunities to paint things in different colors and different schemes so you don't get burned out is really important. I think
it's I think you make a lot of good points there, but I think there's an easier solution.
I think I know what your answer is going to be, and I don't think I like it. But what is it?
Don't play with unpainted models.
Ooh, okay, I do like that. I thought you were just going to say, don't buy shit. And I'd be like, Dan, no.
No. Seriously, like, this is like my main discipline thing. Like, you've never seen me play with unpainted models.
No.
Because I don't do it. It is the one hobby rule I follow. Is don't play with unpainted models, and that has focused me immensely on getting projects done so I can, you know, fucking play with fully painted models and fully realized armies or warbands or gangs or whatever. Like, if you have an event coming up, like Nova Open, I've done a ton of crunch time for Nova Opens. I did crunch time for Adepticon last year. Like, and if you're like, hey, I'm going to get this amount of stuff done by this, if you set a goal, you'll get through it. It'll happen.
Yeah, you'll find a way. Life finds a way.
Life finds a way. All right. Let's move on to our second question of We Make the Call. This one is from Nicholas Petru via email. And Nicholas asks, how do chainswords work? It seems like something that makes little to no sense. Unlike a sword, which can block and riposte, it seems like a chainsword would be cumbersome and have a lot of throwback due to the moving saw. I think it would be a big disadvantage to carry, but it seems to be more common as a choice rather than a sword or power weapon. If I were to choose either, my money would always be on the sword. Well, Nicholas, I love this question. First off, because chainswords would not work in the real world, but we don't have to worry about the real world because we're not talking about the real world. We're talking about Warhammer 40,000. Now, I've used chainsaws in my life, real, actual chainsaws, and they are finicky pieces of equipment that you have to maintain to get work, and you have to wear a ton of protective gear, because if you're cutting through a log, you never know we're going to hit a knot, and that chainsaw is going to jerk around, and you wear protective clothing when you do it. I have Kevlar-lined chaps that I wear when using a chainsaw. And
not just for fun.
Well, I don't wear them for fun because they're actually quite heavy. These things are to prevent me from cutting my own leg off with a said chainsaw.
Well, what is more protective than power armor?
Well, that's the point. In the 40K, we don't have to worry about people cutting their own legs off. In fact, for Imperial Guardsmen, the chainsword is probably worth more than the guardsman's life who is carrying it.
This is true.
At least to the Departamento Munitorum.
If you read any like Black Library book where there is a character with a chainsword, they usually use it pretty deftly, and they do parry and riposte and do all kinds of maneuvers with the chainsword that I can't really fathom.
But at the same time, they talk about how using a chainsword is different from using a regular sword.
Yes, it is.
Caiaphas Cain talks about it quite a bit. Gaunt, in one of the first stories where like Gaunt kills his uncle or something. I don't know.
Yes, in the first book.
They talk about the actual physics of using a chainsword.
Yeah. It's something that very much exists because rule of cool applies. And like, oh, that sounds dope. It would not fucking work. It would be about as useful as the buzzsaw wheels on the motorcycle on the cover of Judas Priest's Painkiller.
Yep.
But it's coming from that same school of design. That being said, there's a YouTube channel called Men at Arms where they make weapons from fantasy things and so on.
Yep.
And they do have one on a Warhammer 40k chainsword, and it kind of works, but it's very heavy.
Yeah, well, the problem is the technology to create a chainsword in the real world doesn't exist.
It does, just not feasibly.
Well, no, because they use like a small, super powerful electric motor in chainswords in 40k, which doesn't really exist in the real world. You'd have to use a combustion engine, which I think in that YouTube video that you're talking about, they use a small actual chainsaw engine. Yeah. Which, I mean, again, that's a finicky piece of equipment with a ton of moving parts. Like if you're swinging it around with a sword and hitting things with it, it's gonna break. You don't swing chainsaws around. You apply them with even pressure to whatever you're trying to cut.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the hardest thing they fight in that video is like a watermelon.
Yeah, I think so too. So if we can like live in the fiction for a moment, chainswords would definitely be hard to use. But I think that they would be pretty effective against somebody who's not armed with a melee weapon.
They're also, I think they'd be an effective terror weapon too, because getting stabbed, that sucks. Getting chainsawed, that sounds excruciating.
Yeah, it's not fun. Messy too. No, I love
everyone involved.
I love them. Nicholas, you're right. They don't make any sense. It would be a complete hassle to use, but it's one of the great things about 40K where, yeah, it's dumb. It doesn't make any sense, but it's still fun.
That's like telling me that chainswords don't work is like telling a child that Santa Claus doesn't exist.
What is it? It's like there's you always get in a conversation with that guy who's like, oh, these movies don't make any sense because cell phones. And it's like, shut the fuck up, guy. All right, just. Yep. And Nicholas, I'm not saying that you're that guy. But don't be that guy. Chainswords, they're fun. Okay, one more question.
All right.
I know a 3-part we make the call, but we're leading in with this next question to a little topic of conversation here. And this one is written by shit. 1 second.
I love shit. 1 second. Loyal listener, regular Patreon donor.
This one is written by Jeremy Reap. And he asks, I'm going to Adepticon next year with some pals, and it's our first ever 40K event. I'm only bringing a small amount of stuff for the Kill Team tournament and some painting classes, but I'm wondering if you guys have some hot tips for people new to cons. What's the best way to pack my stuff for travel? What's the downtime between events like? How much stuff is worth buying from vendors? Are there cool places to drink, eat by the venue? You know, all that basic sort of shit for idiots. Well, Jeremy, you've come to the right place, because if there's one thing that Campbell and I are, it's idiots, and we will gladly help other idiots. Now, Adepticon is a fantastic event, and I'm super glad you're coming, and I hope when you show up to the event, you come find us and say hi. And we're going to talk quickly. We're going to answer your questions, and we're going to talk about Adepticon registration, what we're doing, and how to, hang out with us at Adepticon. So let's go through your questions. So, what's the best way to pack my stuff for travel? Totally depends. How are you getting there? If you're driving, then you're probably not going to have any issues. You can just pack it up in a Games Workshop case or a KR case. I think you said you're only bringing stuff for Kill Team. So, like, just a regular Games Workshop case is fine. And honestly, if you end up flying to Adepticon, as long as you keep it in your carry-on, you can just bring a case of miniatures on the plane. I've done that quite a few times.
Most cases fit in various kinds of backpacks. Like KR ones obviously have their own bespoke backpack that you can fit in the overhead, like with 2 full cases, which you probably won't need for Kill Team, but it's a thing. And
however, the KR backpack has a ton of space in it.
It does.
If you are going for Kill Team and you plan on buying stuff, Jeremy, bring a KR, get a KR backpack and bring it, and just leave one of the compartments open to carry stuff back home with you.
Yeah, you should at least pack with some extra space for bringing things back. Whether you're doing a swag bag thing, or you might get prizes or giveaways or buy stuff, you want to have extra space to bring things back. Like, the old joke was that you should bring a spare suitcase when you go to Adepticon if you're going to be getting a swag bag because of how much stuff is in there. And I don't think it's wholly inaccurate from when we went and we had to ship shit back home.
It costs like, what, like $75?
Yeah, it costs like 50 to 75 bucks, which is great. So,
just pack it, think about it, Like,
pack your things in foam if you can. My KR cases, I have had one breakage in KR cases in my entire time using them, and it was just because I think the box got squished a little bit and a part popped off, and I just glued it back in, no problem. When I traveled to the UK with like that whole crew I was going with, I know a few people actually even took the time to basically masking tape shut their foam stacks, because it's usually like a few trays and a topper, and they would tape them shut and then put them in a box. Although personally, I think that makes it look a little bit more like an explosive.
Much more likely to get your bag searched.
Yeah, be mindful that your bag may be searched, and if TSA agent or whomever does ask to search your bag, make sure you are there and you're just calm and careful and speak. These are models for a thing. If you want me to open it, I can open it, or whatever. Like, be diplomatic, but also make sure they don't open the case and drop everything on the floor. Yeah,
and like carry on. If you're doing Kill Team, just bring your bag on carry on, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, when I went to Adepticon, I think it was Adepticon's when I actually brought this. I brought that huge ass rolling suitcase, and I actually had extra cases in there when I flew over, and that was nerve wracking. But when I got to the hotel room and I opened it up, everything was fine, because I had my suitcase had a zip in the middle so you could kind of divide it. So I put my extra KR case or 2 in there and just got them stationary by surrounding them with clothes. So you're going to pack clothes anyway, use them as extra padding for whatever you've got in there that might be breakable.
Okay, so what's the downtime between events like? So most events usually, start in the morning and finish up in the late afternoon, early evening.
Yeah, that's kind of up to you. Depends what events you sign up for.
Right. You can sign up for stuff during the day and then sign up for stuff at night. But Adepticon is super social. And I think it makes sense to keep the nights free for hanging out. Because a lot of people hang out. And this will dovetail with are there cool places to drink, eat by the venue? Yes and no. Yes, in that there is a bar and a restaurant which has good food at Adepticon.
Actually, it's very good food.
And you can hang out there. Everybody hangs out there. You're going to see a ton of people around the con the whole time there. There is not a whole lot in walking distance to Adepticon, to the hotel. However, it's like a short drive or lift or cab away to some nice restaurants or a mall or stuff like that. So you can definitely go out nearby, but you can also just hang out at the hotel the whole time and have a really good time. So I would suggest you're going to be busy during the day in your events. Keep the nights open for hanging out, having a couple of beers, if that's something you like to do. And if it's not something you like to do, you can find just people to chill with and talk to. I know that you and I are going to be hanging out at least one night out in the hotel lobby. Yeah,
we're going to be in the bar an awful lot, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm fucking open my second beer of the recording, so you know what we like to do. Whew. But yeah, it's Adepticon is actually lends very well to being social.
And the thing is, if you do have any sort of like awkwardness or anxiety about talking to strangers, understand that everyone's here for the same reason, and you already have something in common with them.
Just start talking about Warhammer.
Yeah, like they'll be happy to talk to you, and if they're not, all right, whatever. There's more people around.
Yeah, just go up and be like, hey, what events are you doing? And just talk about the events. It's easy. Okay.
Yeah.
How much stuff?
I was going to say, I had my first like Adepticon interaction with a person when I flew there that one time. I was at the airport and I sat at a bar in the airport in Boston next to a guy who had like a battle foam case in the ground. And he's like, oh, you do this stuff too? What are you playing in? And we just talked for like an hour and a half before our plane showed up.
Nice.
Common ground.
Okay. How much stuff is worth buying from vendors? Totally depends again, but in my opinion, not that much stuff.
You'll find some people who usually have some older rare stuff around. So if that's what you're looking for, that's awesome. And you'll usually find some store that'll have either a coupon in the swag bag or greetings packet or whatever to get, 20% off or something. Or they'll have, in the case of Nova this year, buy one, get two free War Machine kits.
Oh, God.
Or whatever. Yeah. If you just keep an eye out, you can usually find some stuff around. I think I don't know if the Toledo Game Room will be at Adepticon. I assume they will.
They will. It's always worth to dig through their bits box. But remember,
sanitize your hands immediately afterwards.
What are the most important things to do at a con? Drink plenty of water, actually eat vegetables, and wash your fucking hands. Just remember that and you'll be okay. Campbell, let's quickly talk about Adepticon real quick, what we're doing, where we're going to be, and how people can reach out to us. So Adepticon registration opened up on Sunday, and I got into all
filled up on Sunday.
Is it done?
When I searched Sunday evening for just the word full, I got like 150 results on a page of 500 events.
Fuck, I hope everybody got what they wanted. I got what I wanted. So I'm in the 40k Gallant GT, which is no longer the Gentleman's GT. I guess is a little more inclusive than Gentleman's. On Thursday, that was a great event 2 years ago with you and a great event last year. And I'm excited to do it again. They dropped it from 100 power level to 75 power level. So we'll see what happens. But should be fun. Mm-hmm. I don't like power level. I don't think power level is a good way to, price out armies, but that's how they do it.
I think it makes sense for this event to kind of let you know what's going on. If somebody is going to be like, oh, knobs are X power level, I'm going to take every single possible upgrade on them I can.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I did have a game last year where my 100 power levels came out to about 1850, and I played a fellow who had 2,200 points in his.
Yeah, I believe it.
Which is not the best. But you said you're in that event too?
Yeah, I'm in the Gallant GT.
Oh my God, we might play each other.
I'm hoping we will. Just like last time.
Yeah. Are you going to bring your knights?
I don't know what I'm bringing yet.
You have so many options.
I generally don't know. I know. I've got too many
I honestly
options.
don't know if I'm going to bring my Raven Guard or if I'm going to bring my Steel Legion.
It would take chapter approved to give me a nice bump to make me bring my Templars. As much as I love them, I just don't want to go through 4 days of losing games again.
Yeah. All right. And then on Friday, I'm doing the 40k friendly.
Same, fam.
That is 1,500 points, 1 detachment.
Nice.
1. So
nice. I'm into it.
Not going to be a whole lot of bullshit in that. And I think,
could just bring 3 knights.
I think Lords of War are contraindicated too, where you just can't bring 3 knights. But you have to actually have a 40k army. And this one's based on Princess Bride, the theme this year.
The Inconceivable Escapade. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I didn't read anything. I just did I just did a search for friendly and a search for Gallant because I remembered Gallant replaced Gentleman's. And anything else I got was purely happenstance.
Then just like last year, on Saturday and Sunday, I am going to play Blood Bowl in the Stupor Bowl, the 2-day Stupor Bowl.
Okay.
which was a ton of fun last year, and I am back at it. I think my one hobby commitment for this Adepticon is going to be update my orcs paint jobs.
They're not that old.
No, but I know I can. I want to do some weathering, and there's a couple of fixes in there that for paint rubbing off or whatever. But I want to do some weathering, and I talked about this one vote away from winning best painted last year, and if I had voted for myself, I would have won, but I didn't because I'm not a shithead. But I want to win best painted.
I gotcha. I mean, have you done sponge weathering before?
No, that's one of the things I want to try.
It's so easy and looks excellent.
Well, I'm going to talk to the king of weathering, Greg Hess, about exactly how to do it. So I'm going to have
he's a better guy than me.
I'm going to have a powerhouse weatherman on my side. So what do you have planned for Saturday and Sunday of Adepticon?
Noted meteorologist Greg Hess. I'm gonna begin in a game with Carl Tuttle. I'm calling you out, Carl. He already called me on a message. It's fine. Okay. I have his challenge coin from when he played against each other the last time I was there, and I intend to play for that once more and continue to keep it. So we'll be doing that. But otherwise, I don't really have plans for Saturday or Sunday. I only got the Gallant and the Friendly, and then I'm doing the studio preview on Thursday. Wednesday.
Playing accordingly.
Yep, and I'm doing 40k trivia on
Friday.
On Friday. Are you in that too?
I signed up for that too because you did and a bunch of our friends did. I don't know if I'm going to actually do it.
I mean, if we don't do it, it's like, oh no, that was $5.
But
I think it'd be fun. I assume
if we can
it's pub
do
trivia
a
stuff.
Team.
Yes.
If we can be a Badcast team.
Yes.
I am actually very interested in that, and we can make it a team thing. I think the most competitive person on the planet, JD Reynolds, is also signed up for that. So if he's on our team for that, that might be good.
As long as he has questions about Ultramarines, we'll be fine.
He does know his stuff about Ultramarines. All right, so Adepticon, we're going. If you want to hang out with us, please do.
Yeah, I'm going to be free Saturday and Sunday for a good chunk of it, so you can at least get a game in with the other guy if you want to.
The best way to get at us about hanging out at Adepticon is to email us at contact@40kbadcast.com.
Beforehand.
Yeah, not during. No, there will be no checking
once we're there, go to Twitter. Go to Twitter once we're there, and you can probably hit us up there. Or if you really feel like it, if you follow Camhammer on Facebook, that is the old Facebook page I set up for my old YouTube channel. I still use it for Badcast stuff now. You can message me through there, and I can pass it on to Dan. But Twitter and like tagging one or both of us in a tweet at us is probably the best way to do it.
A very good way to do it. I mean, we're both staying in the hotel. We will be staying with one another. So if you're trying to reach either one of us, talking to either one of us will work.
Yeah.
So we're going to be in the gaming hall on Thursday and Friday. And then on Saturday and Sunday, I'm going to be off in a dark room playing Blood Bowl with people. But you'll probably be out in the gaming hall or out walking around. We'll be at the bar probably a lot during the whole thing. So if you see us, you just come up to us, just talk to us. I personally love to hear from listeners. We had a guy at Nova who was wearing a 40k Badcast shirt who was walking around the Apocalypse table who didn't come up and say hi to us, fella. You might be listening. And
hey,
come
some
on.
people get paranoid when they get stoned.
Come up and talk to us. And if you don't, if you're like, wait, are you Dan? Are you Campbell? Like, who are you? Who are you? Just ask. It's okay. We're all awkward nerds. It doesn't fucking matter.
Yep.
So come up to us. Adepticon. Be there. Okay, we're going to have a quick conversation about some hobbying, some actual hobbying stuff. And it's hobby tools, essentials, and experiences. So part of every hobbyist's repertoire is what tools they use. And we've talked about this, we've had some hobby segments before, but we haven't really got specific about what we use.
Yeah, it's kind of been left up there. And although an artist is only as good as their tools is a catchy adage, it's not exactly right.
I wouldn't call that true at all.
Yeah, I would not say good tools can help a lot, but that is not the case.
I can fucking put out a funky ass bass line on a shitty bass. You feel me?
I've painted so many eyes with like curly cued split end paintbrushes, you wouldn't believe it.
Dude, I like my small bass brush or medium bass brush. It looks terrible, but it gets the fucking job done.
Well, let's start by talking about brushes. What kind of brushes do you use?
So I suck, and I use mostly Games Workshop brushes.
Okay. There's worse brushes out there.
They're pretty good quality. They're pricey. They're too expensive, honestly.
Yes.
But I have been burned by ordering brushes online before, and they show up at your house and they're all fucked up. And you can go to a Games Workshop and you can look at the brushes and like see that they're not fucked up.
That's true.
And I've been at like Michael's. They'll sell a bunch of stuff and they're just not, I don't know, they just don't work as well.
Well, yeah, that's because those are usually brushes that aren't made for miniature painting.
Yeah.
So the bristles tend to be softer, or they don't tend to hold as fine a point.
Now, my bigger brushes that I use for like tanks and stuff, those are usually just synthetic brushes from Michael's. Because I actually like a stiffer brush for like bigger stuff when it comes to like basing or tanks or dry brushing or whatever. Yeah. So I just go to Michael's and get whatever bullshit synthetic brushes are available there. And they were the nylon brushes usually. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they work fine.
My problem with brushes I've gotten from Michael's, which again, craft stores are always worth a look for a lot of this stuff. Not Hobby Lobby, they suck ass, but like Michael's and whatever your local alternative
Don't go to Hobby Lobby.
Nope, they're a bunch of folks.
If Hobby Lobby is the only store around you, okay, whatever. But like literally anywhere else, go there first.
Yeah. So the brushes from Michael's I've gotten tend to shed just because they're like $2 for a pack of 12 or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is not extra great. So I have a lot of like terrain tiles that have these hairs just kind of baked into the paint. And if I pulled it up, it's going to be gray plastic under there. And I'm like, oh, I guess that's added texture. Yeah. So from actual miniature painting, I've used a whole ton of different brands. So I also have used GW brushes. A while ago got a bunch of old paint starter sets for really cheap on eBay. And those brushes were great for base coating until they got fucked up. Then they were great for dry brushing.
Yeah, right.
Like the life cycle of a brush is highlight, layer, wash, base coat, dry brush, glue. Like that is the life cycle. It's a sad life cycle, but some of these brushes, especially the better ones, will last a lot longer. So I use Scharf brushes. Scharf. SCHARFF. Scharf. Yeah. Those brushes are Kolinsky Sable. They are like nice.
Natural,
real hair,
real
natural hair from a real murdered animal, and they hold their points rather well. And I have brushes from Scharf that'll usually last me. I don't take the best care of my brushes, but those brushes last me like 6 months, and they'll still keep a pretty good tip before they start to fray or get a little fat and become better for washes and more, dry brushing type things. And I also have a Rosemary & Co. Kolinsky brush, which is like also super fine, and that's the one I use for my eyeballs right now, that after again like 6 months has started to split a little bit, so now that's not doing so great.
I have an Army Painter super fine brush that we got in the Adepticon swag bag that I still use for eyes and writing.
The only Army Painter brush I have is my dry brush, which is it's a dry brush. It doesn't need to be that great, but it's done great for me. I will say most hobby shops will also have their own brand of, not really their own brand, but like a generic brush that's branded with that hobby shop on it. They
usually suck.
Like, yeah, I've had a bunch from the Complete Strategist, rest in peace, that had a bunch of those, and they lasted, a month maybe, but they at least worked for what they were, and they were also very cheap.
I'll say, and I don't know if your mileage is the same here, but Games Workshop brushes that I've used actually last a good amount of time. And I paint like 2 hours a night most nights, and I go months without buying new brushes.
My old GW brushes didn't last very long. The newer ones, now they have like the metal handles. I've got a big base brush that I use from them. It's frayed a bit at the edges, but it's a base brush, so I don't really care that much. But it's been pretty okay. And finally, the final brand I have for brushes here is I do have Games and Gears brushes. I got a bunch of these from Adepticon give-outs. I have 3 of them, and I don't know if it's just this brush. These ones are synthetic, but I found that they frayed to an unacceptable level after maybe 2 hours of use.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Games and Gears brushes I've gotten from Adepticon handouts, I've got 3 of them, have been pretty much awful to a fault.
Wow.
Like for a minute, I was using it for, some highlights and doing some, finer layering work. And then by the end of my painting session, it was just going out in every direction. It looked like fireworks had gone off. And it's like, all right, this is a stippling brush now, or a dry brush even. So I know a local guy around here, Sam Butler, he likes Games and Gears brushes a lot, and he's talked about them to me before. But I don't know if it's just this particular brush, but I have not had great experience with Games and Gears brushes thus far.
Okay. Yeah, brushes are finicky, man. Like, everybody's going to find their brush.
Yeah, everyone's going to find one they like. Some people may prefer synthetic brushes, like the stiffer bristles, as like you do. Some people like the softer ones, like me.
Well, I like stiffer bristles for large brushes, but for smaller brushes, I'm all about those natural murdered animal brushes. Specifically, the Games Workshop small layer brush and the Games Workshop medium layer brush do the bulk of painting on every model I do. And they kick ass, I think. But, you know, I've heard a lot of stories about people who are like, oh, Games Workshop brushes are shitty. So, you know, grain of salt, your mileage may vary, whatever.
Yeah. Well, speaking of painting, what paints do you use?
I use a mix of Games Workshop paints and Vallejo model color paints. So there's a Games Workshop 10 minutes away from my house. And that's usually where I get a lot of my supplies. So I end up having a lot of Games Workshop paints. Games Workshop paints are great because they have a huge range. They are acrylic. They are reasonably good for the most part. And at $4 a pop, they're not the most expensive paints out there. The bottles aren't great, but they're not terrible. Your paints won't dry out super quick like they used to with Games Workshop stuff with those
the old thread needle tops.
Yeah. But and I have some old, I still have a couple, or I have a pot of chestnut ink from the early 90s late 90s that is still kicking around, and blue ink too. They're still doing well. They're pretty good. Vallejo, I like the Vallejo bottles a lot. They have the dropper bottles, which
is better for a palette.
Good, but at the same time, if a tiny bit of paint dries in that dropper bottle and you don't realize it and you squeeze real hard, and then you end up with paint everywhere, which is not great. But it's
embarrassing for everybody.
Yeah, I have a few of those too, and they work well. The Games Workshop black sucks. Abaddon black.
Abaddon black is one of the. I don't know how you can fuck up black.
It's so bad. The Chaos black used to be amazing. It used to be so fucking good. But Abaddon or Abaddon black, whatever, like sucks now. Its coverage is shit. It's really bad. Games Workshop metallics are really good though.
The Retributor armor or
Retributor armor. Yeah, the gold base.
Yeah.
That.
Like, at first when I was like really salty about the old world getting destroyed and, you know, Age of Sigmar being started, I'm like, oh, this sucks. But was it all worth it to get this color?
Retributor armor makes it almost worth it because gold used to be such a pain in the ass to paint.
Completely.
Back in the day. And now with this color, it is like one coat and you're good.
Over black. Like it's a nice rich gold.
Lead Belcher is a really strong paint too. That's their basic, you know, metallic color. The Games Workshop metallics kick ass, and they have a huge range of them too.
Yeah,
which is why
now they do. Yeah,
you can't really go wrong with Games Workshop paints.
No, aside from black, I have had no colors from Games Workshop that were problematic or hard to use at all. The only, I use a few colors that aren't from GW. I basically use P3's Thamar Black because that is like what old Chaos Black was, and really that's a great paint. I use some Vallejo paints, and I do use some Army Painter paints because those match the colors of the Army Painter sprays.
Okay, yeah.
I'll say Army Painter sprays are pretty good overall. I've had very good experience with all of them, but Army Painter bottle paints I've found are absolute trash half the time.
Is that so?
Yeah, so I use my Retro Ultramarines use the Army Painter Crystal Blue, which is a very bright saturated blue, and that color covers great. That'll go over itself really well. It sprays over really well. It's a good color. I love it. Their old Dark Angels green match and their old bleach bone match are also pretty okay. But their lighter green, like they had a goblin green paint and an old like sunburst yellow paint, and those colors cover like trash.
Yellow is legit hard though. You know this.
It is legit hard. I do. But I would spray something in the yellow and then I'd wash it in orange, and then when I tidy up the wash with that yellow, it would look like I didn't even put paint on the model.
Oh my God.
Like the coverage is so poor on those colors. So when it comes to Army Painter, be a little careful what you're getting into, because I think you really should, outside of maybe the Crystal Blue, just because blues are generally pretty safe bets, find the closest like GW or Vallejo color that matches whatever colored spray you're using. Yeah. But their colored sprays are a big plus, but they aren't quite as good as GW's colored sprays, which are stupid good.
GW, they're like $20 a pop, which is
They're expensive.
Which is a lot for a fucking rattle can. But these sprays are fantastic. Okay.
I wouldn't buy black or white from them because you can get Krylon for a fifth the price that's as good as you need it to be. But when it comes to like McCrag blue, corn red, whatever, they're exact matches.
Yeah, I actually would get their black before anything else. As we talked about last time, I don't have a lot of experience priming white, that is. But I would get their black because their black, it's easy to fuck up primer, man. Like, especially in the American South, where it's humid all the fucking time. You know, it's easy to fuck it up, and Games Workshop primer is extremely forgiving.
Yeah, it's durable. Like it is durable too. Like
it stays on fire. It's super hard to strip.
I get chips for my Army Painter models, which is why my old Ultramarines are so like heartbreaking to me. I had to start priming them white with Krylon paint and then going over with the Army Painter spray. GW sprays actually are like a primer. They are sturdier. Yeah.
GW spray is really good. And they also have a huge range of sprays.
Yeah. That are like 100% color matches.
Their lead belcher spray is gold. Well, no, it's like dark silver. But but it works so fucking well, and it has saved me so much time.
Yeah, I used it on my Steam Tank and on my Necromunda scenery.
Oh my god, it rules.
Yep. Ooh, yeah. I should do my landing pad with that too.
All right, so I use mostly Games Workshop sprays when it comes to it, but I do not use Games Workshop Purity Seal, which is what they call their varnish.
Which is a great name for a varnish, and it's not a good varnish historically.
It is not a good varnish. Well, I don't know if they've changed their formula or whatever, but I use Tester's Dull Coat, and I exclusively use Tester's Dull Coat because Tester's Dull Coat is fan-fucking-tastic.
I use their gloss coat as well. If I really want some solid protection, I'll do the gloss coat, then like 2 coats of dull coat. The only thing, just throwing this out there real quick, a lot of people have frosting when they varnish stuff because of humidity or because of, you know, a bad can or they just did it wrong. Yep. When you do get frosting on your models, which I know people used to like throw their models in the trash and write Games Workshop for a replacement or whatever. Yep. Seriously, gloss varnish them. It eats away the frost. Yes. And you can just matte varnish them again after that. And congrats, you've saved your model.
Then you matte varnish. Yeah. Now you might have some bumps on your model when you do that. Because a lot of the frosting, what will happen is the varnish will dry in the air before it gets to the model. Yeah. And that creates, well, it creates that frosting. It creates little bumps. And they are a little bit opaque. And that's why you get that frosted look. So what you do is you just smooth it out with some gloss varnish. Then you hit it with the matte varnish again. And in a lot of cases, it will be fine. However, Tester's Dull Coat, once again, extremely forgiving. I live in Virginia. It's always fucking humid here. Like you have to be careful. Like they're in the summertime, man. There are times when I finish models and I end up I don't spray them for weeks. I don't varnish them for weeks because it's just so fucking humid. And you really like okay. A lot of people talk about relative humidity. I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here, Campbell. I'm sorry.
Oh, cool. Here we go.
A lot of people talk about relative humidity, which is when someone says like the humidity is 90%. Okay. What that means is the current temperature goes into the dew point. Okay. So the dew point is the point at which water will condense out of the air. The temperature at which water will condense out of the air. And 90% humidity, you can have a 35-degree day with a 32-degree dew point, and that's 90% humidity. But let me tell you something. That's extremely dry. On its own, percentage of humidity doesn't mean anything. But we have numbers that mean a lot with the same thing, and it's dew point. If your dew point is above 65 degrees, do not spray models with anything. Not primer, not varnish. And you can find this on any website. If your dew point is above 65 degrees, do not spray. If it's between 55 and 60, think real fucking hard about spraying. If it's under 55, then you're probably okay.
Yeah, it's a matter of like, at this point, because I've been in this hobby for a very long time, I can just kind of step outside and kind of feel it. I'm like, this seems like it's probably gonna be good, and I'm usually right.
Yes.
It definitely is that old man, storm's coming, I can feel it in my knees sort of thing. But it is something that does come with experience.
No, but seriously, look at your dew point. 55 and under, you're good. 55 to 65, think about it. Think about how badly you need to spray this shit. Above 65, don't touch it with spray. Work on something else.
Also, if it's going to go below 40 degrees, do not spray either, because spray paint, when it's wet, can crack.
Yes.
And that texture will not come out.
No.
Or you'll be lucky if you can scrub that off.
Right. And again, if it's really cold, don't spray, because the spray will freeze before it hits the model, and it will do the same thing that it does when it dries before it hits the model.
So long as it's between like 45 and 80 degrees and it's not wet, you're going to be pretty okay, honestly.
Yes. Now, there are ways to combat this. If you don't have any choice, you can always spray quickly and bring it inside. If you don't have someone in your house that complains about fumes, or you're okay with fumes, then you can.
Or you have a garage.
Or you have a garage, then you can do that, and you're usually okay. The garage with like the door open is pretty much the same as outside, so be careful with that. Like, spraying is a huge thing, guys. Like it can totally fuck up your models if you're not careful.
And your lungs.
Yeah, that too. But who cares about those? It's the models is what we care about here. So you do have to be careful, but it's not that hard. Just look at your dew points, and you're good to go. And please at me about this if you think I'm wrong.
Please do not at me.
I would love to have this conversation. Anyways, so let's get off paints for a second and talk about our actual tools that we use. And
all right.
Honestly, one of the most important things that you need in your hobby kit is clippers.
Yeah, I picked up a set of Gale Force 9 clippers like 10 years ago, and I'm still using the same pair.
Yeah, I have a set of Husky, which is a tool brand, clippers that I have been using for probably 10 years. And they haven't been dulled. I mean, the only thing, they're wire cutters is what they are. They're specifically wire cutters. The only thing they clip is pretty soft plastic. So they're not going dull.
The thing is, a lot of the hobby ones out there are like, they're still flush cutters, but they aren't made for things as hard as metal. So when it comes to clipping paper clips, I have an even older set of clippers that's actually rusty at this point for clipping that, because the one time I tried to clip paper clips with my other Gale Force 9 cutters, I saw the metal in the clippers bend.
Oh my.
And I want to keep them nice and good at getting flush cuts on plastic.
Yeah.
So yeah. When it comes to resin, be careful where you use flush cutters, though, because they don't actually cut, they crush.
Yes.
And that can cause snapping, cracking, any kinds of problem with resin miniatures. So that's where you use a knife.
You can pulverize resin. Also, just don't buy resin miniatures.
You can't tell me not to support my 4-year-old habit.
Whatever. I have an Astreus, so I'm an idiot.
I got to get that sump crock.
Let's talk about X-Acto knives or hobby knives.
Yeah.
So I have an Excel handle. It's EXCEL that I bought at Hobbytown, USA. Like, geez, probably 2008. So 10 years ago, 2008. Yeah. And I use blades that I bought on Amazon, Techni Edge blades. I thought I bought 10, but I bought 100. So I'll probably never need to buy them again. And they work fine. It's if you get any like sort of handle, it'll work. Like X-Acto is the name brand that we're all familiar with. And X-Acto will, they sell blades, they sell handles and that stuff. And the thing is, though, you have to replace the blades. They will dull. The duller a blade is, the more dangerous it actually is, because you'll overcompensate and you could actually cut towards yourself with it and stab yourself or cut yourself or lose a fingertip. I wouldn't know about doing any of these things. Dude, when I'm like cutting with a knife, I am almost always have the knife wrapped in my first 2 fingers and it's cutting towards my thumb with my thumb acting as the backdrop for it. I'm looking at my thumb right now and I see an old cut, a scar from an X-Acto knife, a probably dull X-Acto knife going into my thumb, because that's how I do it.
Yeah, no, my fingertips are all just cross sections of scars, and there's definitely been times where I'm like, I was like at home at a place where I didn't have air conditioning, and I'm just in my boxers doing cutting with stuff, and I drop the knife, and it just lands like an inch from things that I'd rather not get impaled by a knife.
I had a scare the other night when I was putting together my repulsor. I dropped my knife and it landed on my foot, but it landed blade side up. The butt of the handle landed on my foot and like bounced off and onto the floor. And I was just like, oh, buddy, 180 degrees on that. And I would have a knife in my foot.
Yeah, never try to catch a knife if you drop it.
Never. Just get out of the way. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so knives, you can find them anywhere. Like they're used in so many different applications that you don't have to buy just hobby knives. You can just buy like these little X-Acto type knives off of.
Be careful with the you have to change the blades out. Be careful how you dispose them.
Make sure when you do buy a knife, that it is a handle that you can change the blades out of. You need to do that.
Yeah, because I've got like a little X-Acto thing that came with one of the blade packs I got, which is like kind of a little box that you can't really open, but you can slide empty or dull knife blades into. I know Dylan has an empty beer can on his desk that he just drops them into when he's done.
That's great. Dylan is such an interesting person.
He is a very interesting person.
Okay, here's a tool that a lot of people might actually malign, but I love. It's the mold line scraper.
Fun fact, there's a mold line scraper on the MechBoy workshop kit.
Is it really?
On his desk full of like tools, there's like all these wrenches and spanners and orc weapons, and there's just one Citadel mold line remover just kind of on a cutting mat.
That's what I have. I have the Citadel mold line remover, and I use this thing all the fucking time because it works. It's really fucking good. I opened another beer. I don't know if you heard that.
I can hear a rattling around back there. I can get an idea.
Sorry.
Live your best life, Dan.
Yeah, mold line removers, these things are fantastic because a lot of the times before the mold line remover, you'd have to do it with the back of the knife edge.
Or the front of the knife edge and actually carve off some detail.
But that's the thing. Do that this week. I would fuck up detail all the time with these things. If you can take a look at my old Raven Guard that I've finished in like, I don't know, 2007, 2008 level stuff. There's like land speeders and stuff with big gaping holes like at the seams because that was, you know, I was like just like trying to get these mold lines off and I would end up cutting into the plastic. Woof. But with a mold line remover,
I've done that too.
You don't need to do that.
I don't have one of those, but I do have a bunch of like green stuff sculpting tools, which I haven't used for actually much green stuff sculpting, but I have used them to pry the dried paint goop out of paint pots.
Oh, I do that all the time.
Because using a knife to do that is really risky.
No, I use my tweezers actually more to do that, but
that seems great for it too.
Well, we'll get there. But mold line remover, seriously, Games Workshop sells one. It is worth it. If you don't have it, trust me, it's fucking worth it.
Most of their tools are kind of like you can get the same thing for cheaper elsewhere. They're pretty good quality, but you can get the same thing for cheaper elsewhere. But that's one that's pretty much uniquely theirs.
Yeah. High quality scissors. Get high quality. I use a lot of transfers. I'm not talking about fucking classroom scissors. I'm talking about go to your hobby store and find the scissors that come with their own like guard for their blades.
I use a knife to cut out all my transfers.
Oh, dude, like the big transfers?
Any of them, I use an X-Acto knife.
Yeah, well, scissors, I use scissors a lot, and scissors fucking rule. These scissors I found rule. They have like X-Acto knife sharp blades.
Nasty.
Yeah.
Well, if you are applying transfers, you need microset and microsol.
Oh my god!
Like
there was a time where I didn't use microset and microsol, even though it already existed, because I'm some sort of fucking idiot.
Yeah, I call that time the time I didn't use transfers. Because like transfers, I remember hating them in high school because I was like, I put them on a model. I'm like, this looks like crap. I can paint better than that. I couldn't paint better than that.
No,
but it would just be like, they'd be glossy. They'd wear off. Like the transfers, I mean, they just flake off. They'd be fragile and they'd be wrecked pretty quickly. And what's even the point? And they usually like stick up off a marine shoulder pad or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's where this stuff comes in because microset softens the decal and microsol dissolves the actual decal paper around it. And using the two of them, you can get that painted on look, which is a few coats of each. They smell like vinegar. I think they are mostly vinegar.
Yeah, no, microset is acetic acid, and which is vinegar. And microsol is another type of acid, but it's not vinegar. It's something else. I think
GW's.
I think it might be like hydrochloric acid, but I'm not 100% sure.
I can't tell by smell. My palate is not that refined.
Don't put it in your eyes.
Or your mauth.
Oh, well, sometimes you lick a brush and there might be some microset on it and you're like, nom, 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 nom.
or weathering powder. You might be flossing with it. So GW's videos will tell you to put Lamian medium, which is their own like blank paint medium over a transfer to protect it. That works okay, but can signs kind of fog it up.
Gloss varnish.
Gloss varnish,
because paint,
then matte varnish it later.
The way paint works is that when it dries, it doesn't dry flat. It's like a cast iron stove. They're little holes in it where if you put a transfer over just paint, there will be air trapped underneath it, air that you can't get out because it's just It's just holes. There are holes there. There will be air. And so you'll get that sort of foggy transfer look. However, if you put gloss varnish down and let it dry before you put a transfer on, I use hard coat or Ard coat, I guess it's called.
It's still called Ard coat. It's the only like paint color that's kept its name over multiple changes.
If you put that there, that will make a flat surface for you to put transfers on. And then you will never get frosty transfers if you use that. And then when you combine the Ard coat with microset, and you put microset on the Ard coat first on the surface to put the transfer on, and you soak the transfer in microset when you're like trying to get it off the paper. You put that there, and then you let that dry, and then hit it with like 3 coats of microsol. Like it looks painted on. Yeah. There are many YouTube videos out there that show you how to do this. It's just ridiculously easy. The set of microset and microsol you can buy on Amazon for like $6. It is revelation for me when I started doing these Raven Guard.
Yeah, when I was told how they work, it was like, again, one of those third eye opening sort of moments.
Okay, sculpting tools.
Yeah, I have just a set I bought on Amazon. I don't even know what brand they are. Again, I don't use them that much, but all right to have around.
Don't do a lot of sculpting, though. In the Astraeus, I did a lot of gap filling, and the sculpting tools proved invaluable. Because it's hard. It's hard to get the green stuff, which we'll talk about next, into the gaps with just fingers or fingernails. Like you'll fuck it up. But with the tools, here's a tip: if you're gonna use sculpting tools, keep them wet.
Always,
like saliva or water cup or whatever. Because green stuff.
Some people recommend like the grease from your nose, which is gross, but
it'll work.
Whatever.
The green stuff is super sticky, and it will stick to the metal of the plastic of the sculpting tool pretty easily. But if you keep it wet, if you keep something between the green stuff and the tool itself, it'll slide right off.
What green stuff do you use?
Citadel, Games Workshop.
Really? It's really pricey for how much you get.
I don't know where to buy other green.
Okay. Jesus. Fuck. It's not Loctite. There's a generic brand.
I mean, it's epoxy. Green stuff is 2-part epoxy. One of them is blue. One of them is red. Shit. Yellow.
Red. Ooh. Purple stuff.
Purple stuff.
Coming soon.
And you combine it and it makes it green, and it will you sculpt with it. Man, I use so little green stuff. I fill gaps on slaughter bases when I'm making Imperial Guardsmen, and I fill gaps in models when they have models because they're resin forged models, which suck.
Now, I have the same tube of it because it comes in a tube. You can usually get it at hobby shops. I cannot remember the brand for the life of me right now, but if you do search green stuff or gray stuff is a little different. That's more for hard detail sculpting, less for gap filling. It's not Loctite. It's something really close to that, though. But that stuff, I've been using the same tube of it since college, and it cost me $15.
Quick tip for green stuff: pull from the outside. The green stuff in the middle, where the yellow and the blue will touch, gets hard. Don't use that. Pull from the outside. Okay, super important: pin vise or modeling drill.
Yeah, that thing's, again, I'm using the same one and the same set of drill bits I got in college.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Because they're very cheap to get, again, and a lot of good hobby shops will have them. GW has one too, I think. And you can get the drill bits anywhere.
Careful.
Hobby shops will have them. Michaels will have them.
Careful of bits you buy on Amazon. A lot of them suck.
And also you might not know the exact sizes because they come in a lot of different sizes.
So the pin vise is super important though, because 1, drill your fucking barrels.
Yes.
2, a lot of times you have to pin. I had to do some hobby surgery the other night where one of my Inceptor's flight stands broke.
Gross.
And I had to pin it because it wouldn't glue. Like it just wouldn't, because it's an irregular surface, tiny irregular surface. So I had to pin the fucking thing. And it took about 5 minutes, and it's fucking stronger than it was before.
Yeah, it's necessary for metal models, resin models, multi-material models, like pure 100%. Plastics you'll get away with. Sorry?
No, you're 100% right.
Yeah, and also you want paper clips to do the actual pinning, and a set of clippers that can cut the paper clips.
You can buy, like, there's a brass rod you can buy that people are like, oh, you got to use this brass rod, it's so strong.
Paper clip will do just fine.
Just get it. Like, I bought a box of 100 paper clips, or 1,000 paper clips, like, I don't know, 12 years ago, and I'm still working through it.
Yeah, and they cost like nothing. And you'll even use them, like I was using them just in these Necromunda guys just because I was painting the bases separately. and I just pinned them all at the very end, and it was great.
My Inceptors, I use a paperclip stuck into a wine cork to paint them.
Corks are very useful for this sort of stuff, too.
Get some corks. Like, you know what? The best way to get corks, buy a bottle of wine and drink it.
That's it. Did you know that when you buy a cork, you get a free beverage with it?
Actually, it's funny. The corks that I use, we didn't have any corks at that time. Like, we didn't have any wine in the house. And so we went out to dinner one night, and I just asked a friendly bartender in town that I know, this fellow Tom. I was like, hey, you got any extra wine corks back there? He's like, yeah, what do you need them for? I'm like, oh, for painting models. And then I learned that Tom also paints models.
Oh, that's cool, because I think you actually basically told that story in like episode 5 or something like that, but I did not have the part 2 to that he painted models too.
Yeah, he's not a like miniature gamer, but he like paints like and collects like, you know, like World War II tanks and stuff and paints them.
Oh, dad models. Yeah. So the thing I also use my paperclip for is this is kind of a me thing. So a lot of time when I pin things in sub-assemblies, like I want to paint heads separately or a gun separately or something, I'll actually pin it and glue it to a thumbtack that is, the butt end of the thumbtack is glued into like some wood discs or spare bases, and I just leave them all stuck into my cork at the same time so they can not stab me for one, and also so they're readily available. And that cork will later usually be cut up and used for basing material.
There you go. That's smart.
So what kind of basing material do you use?
I use bird sand.
Made from real bird?
No, it's for birds' crops. So birds, here's a lesson for some people who don't know. Birds don't have teeth. And so they,
what about geese?
What do you know? But they do have a thing called a crop, which is, or well, a lot of seed-eating birds do, which is a little pouch in their intestinal tract that has gravel in it that will grind up their food for them. The muscles like will cause the rocks or gravel in there to rub against one another, and it'll grind up the food. The food will pass through, and then they can digest it. So if you go to any pet store, they will sell you a box of bird sand, and it's great because it's the correct size for bases. It's not too big and it's not too fine.
There's so much science knowledge in this episode.
There's a lot of shit happening in this one. This is gonna be a long one though, so. Oh yeah, God. But like you can also, if you don't do that, and I got this bird sand because my dad had a cockatiel for 25 years, and it was what I used during when I was a kid and I lived with my parents, and it worked great because you buy one box of bird sand, and 25 years later it's still not used. Because they only need a little bit because birds are small. You can go to Home Depot and buy like fine grain sand or coarse grain sand or whatever, but that stuff like a lot of times is way bigger than you need for models. And if you're going to buy the real small sand, a lot of times it gets kind of pricey. And you can't buy it in stuff that's less than like 5-10 pounds, which you don't fucking need.
Probably not, but you think that bird sand box will last you a long time. Yeah. So I use Woodland Scenics as basing supplies, and you can get their stuff at hobby shops or at train supply stores, which are a little different, but it is the stuff that people use for model railroading stuff.
Model railroads, anything like base or scenery wise, like you want to go to the model railroad store. Trust me, your town has one. Doesn't matter what town you live in. The man who owns it is old and large and has a beard. And is single
and looking to mingle
and is very friendly and super nice, and you can go in there and just have a grand old day looking at all the stuff.
Yep. And I use their stuff too. I use their snow, I use their coarse and fine grain sand, and I mix those two for my sand mixture for basing. And unfortunately I don't use theirs, but I use GW's flock or grass flock because I bought their old basing kit that came with that came out around the same time as the Roma battle board, and there was so much fucking grass in there that it's lasting me until now. And when my sister was helping me move years and years ago, she found this like big bag of like dank green grass. He's like, "Oh, you've been having some fun. Oh wait, this is for your models, isn't it?"
No, I have the same thing. I bought a tub of Games Workshop or Citadel grass. Like honestly, probably 2006. Yeah, it's still 90% full.
Yeah, and like that grass is like there's not much to it. You just kind of glue it on and blow it. And then, you know, that gets rid of the excess. And there's tufts, which are also nice to put on too. I haven't used much of those. I used them on like the Lost Patrol models I did way back when.
Yep. No, those work really well. Actually, I've used them. They work really well.
Yeah, they're cool, but that's a whole expanding world that, you know, I'm only kind of into. Like, I mostly stick to snow. Most of my basing is winter basing.
Let's stick to
that grass.
Let's stick to tools then, because, you know, there's so many basing materials out there that we could probably have somebody on, maybe not your eye, but somebody on the show that can talk more about basing materials. But let's get back to tools. Files. So I use a lot of metal models because I have an entirely metal Steel Legion army, and metal. Like, a lot of people hate metal. I kind of like metal because it's very forgiving, where you can like cut the shit out of it or file it like real hard and stuff. And it's not like plastic, which will fold and break immediately, or resin, which will just disintegrate. But like metal, you can work with. And honestly, with resin too, like a file is super important when doing resin. And I have these files that I bought at Hobbytown years ago that are just small. They're not like rasps. They're not like, you know, files that you see prisoners sneaking in via cakes to cut through the bars or whatever. Like, these are small, intended for use on models files, and they have saved my ass on many occasion, because these molds, a lot of these older molds, like the Steel Legion molds, like they suck. There's
slippage, there's overfills,
like fucking mold lines.
They're old,
all over the place. Yeah. And you take a file to it, and just a couple of minutes later, it looks brand new.
Yeah, I've never used files, but they sound swell.
I mean, if you don't need a file if you're not using a lot of resin or a lot of metal. Resin, honestly, you could probably get away with not having a file. But if you're using a lot of white metal, like pewter or tin or God love you, lead, like a file is necessary.
Yeah, okay. You know I have a second edition Ultramarines army, right?
I do know that, yes. Pliers. So pliers, you know, not super important, but a lot of times, if you're me, you'll fuck up gluing something, and like what happens a lot is I'll fuck up a base when I'm gluing like a slotted base to a metal model or something, and then I'm like, gotta change that, fucked up. And then pliers help for ripping shit apart. Right. And sometimes you just gotta rip shit apart.
Glue.
Okay.
What do glue?
Glue. 3 major glue groups. Plastic glue,
if you will.
We talked about glue a little bit last time. We're going to talk about it more because it's super important.
Because I didn't use it.
Plastic glue, super glue, PVA glue. Plastic glue is not glue. It's cement. It melts the plastic together. I use the Model Master stuff. It's great. A lot of people don't like to use it because it will turn 2 pieces of plastic into 1 piece of plastic. I like it for that because it makes your models very sturdy. Now, if you want to change things out, if you think that you're going to be breaking it down to repaint it or rearm it or whatever, don't use plastic glue, use super glue. Super glue creates a bond within the glue itself. It cures, and it will break apart. A lot of super glue is actually pretty brittle, not too hard to break apart, and it won't damage the model if you do it correctly. I use Loctite. Loctite is cheap. It is everywhere. It comes in gel, so it's a lot easier to control than liquid. So you're not gluing your fucking fingers together, or like Campbell did last episode, glued his hand to his pants. Don't do that. And then that
was the folly of my youth. All right.
And then there's PVA glue, or what I use, Elmer's glue.
I use tacky glue from Michaels.
Eat in elementary school, Campbell. I use Elmer's. So what I do,
precious memories.
When I use Elmer's for basing. And with gravel, what I'll do is I'll put down a layer of Elmer's on the base. I will pour some of the bird sand onto the base with the Elmer's on it. I will let that dry, and then I will take a watered down layer of Elmer's and I will put that on top of the gravel. And that stuff is like I had an old Granite Terminator. The super glue in his base is a metal model. The super glue failed in the base, and it was, you know, one of those little pegs that you cut a hole into, right? Whatever. Yep. So it came off, and it came off with the gravel in a disc.
What?
In a perfect disc.
Well, like I use tacky glue from Michaels. Just, you know, it's the same stuff. Tacky glue is a little stronger than Elmer's glue, and I mix that on top of this little tub that I keep my sand in. And every like 6 months or so, I just need to pry off this solid disc of glue from the top of that thing, which I can throw like a frisbee.
Yeah, but that must be like very fun.
Oh my god, it's so satisfying.
Okay, tweezers, have them. brands, who cares?
Yeah, they're good
just have them.
They're good for holding transfers.
Yeah.
They're good for holding small bits. I don't usually use them for transfers. Paper towels are great for, just a thing to make an impromptu wet palette for letting a transfer soak on or for wiping things off.
All right, in the same vein, rubber bands and C-clamps.
Oh my God.
They do the same thing. Rubber bands are actually super great for gluing things like tanks together because they give constant pressure over a wide area. C-clamps do pretty much the same thing. If you can't get a rubber band on it, you use a C-clamp, you tack it on there, and it will hold things together, and you can leave the room, and it will glue fine.
When it comes to old vehicle kits like Rhinos and Land Raiders, they're very useful to have these things.
The Bane Blade kit is not the best, like, machined kit. You need rubber bands. You need C-clamps for that to come together without gaps. Blue tack is another great, oh my God, or poster tack. Or whatever. Like, Danielle, my fiance, had a blister or whatever of it, and she was like, hey, you want this? And I was like, oh my God, yes. Oh, I got really excited about it. And she was like, what is wrong with you? And I said, oh, because this is how you dry fit. Or this is how you help super glue cure. Or like it has a million, or this is how you block out if you're spraying camouflage on models. This is how you block it out. Or it's got, or if you're priming like small parts to a model, you fucking stick that model onto your cardboard thing that you prime on, and boom, that's blue tack has so many fucking uses. If you're not using blue tack, it's like if you're not using microcell or microset, like you don't know what you're missing. Get it. It makes life so much better.
Yeah. So where does all this stuff live for you?
Well, I've got one more.
Okay, I'll ask that question again after you say this one more, and we'll edit out the part where I said that question already.
Will we? We won't be editing anything. However, I will be editing things.
Okay.
Painting handle. Now.
Yeah, the GW butt plug.
Now, I don't think you have one.
I do not.
Buddy, friendo, mon ami, mon frere, get one.
I'm still not convinced I need one.
Dude, I have all three. So I have the
you have the whole set.
I have the regular painting handle, then I have the XL painting handle, and I'm using it on my Redemptor right now. And then I also have the painting handle with the little sticky arms.
So you can smoke 2 joints at once.
So I can smoke multiple joints at once. You could probably actually do 4 if you really thought about it, but doesn't matter.
Whoa.
These things are great. They're great because you're never touching the model when you paint. I had this whole like elaborate fucking setup when I painted the Astraeus because I couldn't put it on a handle. Like it involved dish towels. It involved sponges. It was this whole thing so I didn't fuck up the paint job while I was using it. But painting handles, like making model, oh dude, I was comparing just the other day thinking about painting my Boltstorm aggressors versus painting my Flamestorm aggressors. When I painted the Boltstorm aggressors, I didn't have a painting handle. And I would rub off the corners on the top of their Fragstorm launchers all the fucking time because it was one of the points at the model that I would hold while I was painting it. And then when I move over to the Flamestorm aggressors, I remember painting them so much more quickly because I didn't have to constantly be fixing my stupid, grubby, oily hands mistakes on the model itself. The painting handle is a fucking revelation, dude.
Well, you mentioned sponges a second ago, and it's a different kind of sponge, but the sponges I use for weathering are just either the old sponges from the foam from a blister pack, or the foam inserts from out of any kind of pluck foam case, or even the trays for KR cases. Like just ripping a bit of that off, you dip that into some paint, that's how you do sponge weathering. I have a bunch of old ones just in a drawer that I just draw on when I need them, and that's a very useful little piece of what would be garbage that I was able to repurpose into something actually useful for my hobby.
Great point. Way to dodge the painting handle conversation. I mean, you're avoiding it. You couldn't handle it. Oh! All right, good job. You asked a question, where do I keep all this stuff? Well,
yeah, where do you keep it?
You've been to my house. You know what I keep it in. I have this weird shelf thing that I found in a garbage pile.
Oh. I was going to lead into hobby stations because I have the Black Mariah Designs paint station.
Oh, so do I.
All my paints.
I have one of those too.
The rest of my stuff is in like an IKEA metal filing cabinet. which is, it's not the best organizationally because you can only fit so many paints in there. It's not the most efficient for that sort of thing, but it works well enough.
The Black Maria Designs painting like holder set is awesome.
Yeah, and there's other people. It's just a multi-tiered array of racks and trays where you can just fit brushes and dirt paint bottles.
Laser cut MDF.
Which means it smells lovely.
It smells lovely. You order it flat. It packs flat, and you put it together with wood glue. And the guy who owns Black Maria Designs is Todd. He's a friend of ours. He's a great dude, and he deserves happiness and joy. So buy his stuff.
Yeah, there's other companies that make this sort of thing, but this is the only one that Todd does. So do that one.
Todd is from I think suburban Maryland, and he has a just such enjoyably thick Maryland accent with the A's.
I didn't know where that was going to go after you said enjoyably thick, but thanks for clarifying.
It's wonderful. Don't be weird. Don't be weird.
I can't help
What kind of table do you paint on?
I currently have like it's my fiance's Staples office desk from like 2004.
This is the worst question. Because I used to paint on my dresser.
Yeah,
like, you can paint anywhere, like whatever surface. Now, what kind of like I have a light, one of those Tautronics, because Carl on the Independent Characters talked about it, and he loved it so much that I actually looked at it on Amazon. It was like $20, and I bought it, and it's fan-fucking-tastic. Yeah, and it does a bunch of different color temperatures too, if you want to have like fun when you're, taking pictures of your models. But I paint on an old drafting table that my mom was a copy editor for many years, and she had artist friends. And when one of them retired, he had a drafting table in his office, and she was like, "Hey, I know you paint stuff. Do you want this?" And I was like, "Yes. Yes, I do."
Anne has just decided to notify me that this is from 1999, not 2004. Oh. So it is even older.
That's
but
5 years. That's almost
also
the
my
gap
office desk
between your and mine ages.
Oh, wow. That just flowed off, didn't it? But yeah, for a light, I use an IKEA work lamp with a neck that's adjustable that clamps into the desk, so I don't do hunch over. I can even lean back.
You can sit. Yeah, sit up straight. It's so important to be able to sit up straight when you're painting. An adjustable lamp is huge. All right, listeners, that's our hobby tools thing. That segment was crazy long, but we want to keep it going. We want to keep the conversation going.
Also, wet pallets. They're good. I have the P3 one. It's good. Just get one.
You can also make a wet palette with a piece of fucking Tupperware and some butcher paper or parchment paper, like whatever. But we've talked about this for far too long, but we want to talk about it with you more. Contact at 40kbadcast.com. You can hit us up on Twitter. Tell us about your painting stations. Tell us about the piece of equipment that you love, that you want us to know about so we can get it for ourselves. I want to hear it. I love having the hobby station chat with our listeners and our friends, and I love seeing pictures of where people paint. It's so fascinating to me. We saw some pictures on our Discord recently of somebody's painting room. It was just a total mess, and I was giving them shit about not cleaning it up. And I think it was Alfredo's setup, but it was garbage, terrible setup, and I was giving him shit, and it was real funny. Anyways,
it's somewhere between seeing how the sausage is made and seeing an episode of Hoarders.
Yes, and honestly, it's always fun to talk about how. We talk about what, we talk about why. It's always fun to talk about how. Then that's really only a conversation you can have with other hobbyists, and I'd love to have that conversation with you. But we got to move on to a segment that is not necessarily going to be funny, but I think it's important to talk about, and it's Thanksgiving. It's the day before Thanksgiving right now when we're recording. This is a chance for me and Campbell to talk about how just fantastic we feel about this community. We have an incredible community of listeners and supporters, and Campbell and I just started doing this because we wanted to. We had the technology and the experience around to make it sound good, but this has become such an important part of my life, where every 2 weeks I get to talk with one of my best friends and rap about something that literally keeps me sane. And the fact that I get to share it with other people, and the fact that people want to hear it and people engage with us about it, and we get to be part of something is beautiful. I didn't know how much this would mean to me when I started.
I didn't think it would actually go anywhere when we started, because how many times have you heard, oh yeah, we should start a podcast? And I just went, ah, sure, fine, I'll do one. And then one became two, and then it kept going.
Right. And this has honestly improved my life, this situation. And not just because of talking with you, though talking with you is one of my favorite things to do. It's just like having the Badcast inner circle, you know, the experiences, the fun, the karaoke at Adepticon last year, the just very terrible amount of booze we drank at Nova this year, like the Power 10,000 at the random Indian restaurant.
Power 10,000.
Like, there's been so many wonderful experiences that I've had that this podcast has. Well, that wouldn't exist if this podcast didn't happen. And you know, the first person, I don't want to do too much of like thanking people individually because it's going to be very boring, but I do need to thank you, Campbell, for helping me on this journey and just being such a wonderful person to talk to and such a great friend.
I mean, thank you for reaching out and starting this in the first place, because if you didn't, again, like I said, this is the kind of thing I was like, yeah, I'll do this once, sure, whatever, we'll see how it goes. And if you didn't keep up with it, it probably would have only been that one. And that kept me going. And like, we have this wonderful feedback loop that is the highlight, one of the highlights of my month. Like every night before we're recording a Badcast, I'm fucking giddy. And I'm like running through comedy bits in my head that I just can't wait to do. Like I prepare material, what of it? And I'm stoked about it. And I love that we get to do this every, 2-3 times a month or whatever. And I love getting to talk to people about it too, and interacting with community too, because this hobby, like the whole wargaming hobby, is how I've made most of the friends I've made in my adult life. Yeah. And this has opened so many more doors beyond that to people I never would have talked to, or I may have had a game with and then never talked to them again, but they've kept in contact with us because of the podcast, because of Nova, and one leads into the other and one leads into the other. And it's been just, it's been sweet, man.
Yeah. And listeners, like, it means so much that you guys like the show. You know, we're just a couple of idiots doing our thing. And the fact that we get to be a part of your life means a lot to me. And I just want you guys to know that I think this is something really special, and we have a community here, whether or not you're a bad boy or a fuck boy, or you haven't,
or just a friend,
or you haven't decided, or whatever else. And I'm not talking about the official tiers on our Patreon. I'm just talking about like you as a listener. Like to me, like we're a family now. You know, like the holiday season is tough for a lot of people. You know, I grew up with addiction as a constant thing in other people's and my lives. Like, and the holidays magnifies all of that. And this is a time where some people love it and they have a great time, and it's the best part of the year every year. And for some people, it's the darkest, saddest, loneliest time. But if you're a listener to the podcast, I consider you family. And I just want you to know that, I'm with you. I'm here for you. It's, if you're going through rough times, if you're having a great time, I'm with you. I'm willing to share in it with you. We'd love to talk to you guys. It doesn't have to be at Warhammer. It doesn't have to be about hobby stuff. We had a bunch of people checking up on us after last episode when we asked for it. Do people email us or hit us up on Twitter just being like, hey, how you doing? Like, the holidays can be tough. And if you want to talk about it, if you want to get at us, we're not therapists. We're not qualified for any of it. But, it's I've been through it. It can be a rough time. And I hope that all of you guys have someone to talk to. And if you don't, feel free to reach out to us.
Yeah, we don't just do this for the fun of it. Like, we want to help people out too. We want to make people happy. And like, even when it comes to people who, love the show and support us, that's awesome. And people who don't love the show and like mention it to us, like, and give us constructive criticism, like, that's really helpful too. And that helps us make this a better show and helps us be more mindful of who we are and what we say, and keeps us honest. Yeah,
so let's keep the conversation going.
We appreciate your honesty.
Get at us. Contact at 40kbadcast.com. Get at us on Twitter. We'll talk about how to get us on Twitter at the end of the show. But it's the holidays, man. Love and joy. and let's keep it going. Let's feel good about 2018, and let's keep it going towards the new year. But Campbell, there's an important part of our show that we do every single time, and we've come to it. We've come to the gates of fact or fan fiction.
I was going to say, speaking of gifts, I have one for you right here. I
am like just giddy with anticipation.
Well, give me 1 second.
I hope you're getting your voice acting chops ready. You're stretching the old vocal cords. That whole bit.
The sunrise.
Whole bit from Anchorman.
Is this an Anchorman reference from the year of our Lord 2018? I do say.
That movie came out in 2020? Sorry, 2000.
It came out in
2004,
It came out in 20.
Campbell. Which I believe you were 13 years old.
I turned 14 that year, I will have you know.
Gross. Okay. All right.
I was playing homebrew games that time. I wasn't playing real Warhammer yet.
All right. Come on. Hit me with the good stuff.
The sunrise was bathed in blood. Proud sons of Emperor were butchering vile Xeno scum and burning filthy Xeno orphanages while singing praises to the Emperor of the universe. There is no place for the weak, only blood and steel that shine forever like the brightest star. But then, a mysterious portal opened before them, and a figure appeared. It was a short man in a weird suit of armor and weird hair. "Step aside, freak, or we will purge you for Emperor's glory!" roared the human commander, like demigod of steel and blood. "I am Vegeta, and you are dead now, bitch!"
Damn it!
Screamed Vegeta, top of his lungs. "You are unnamed! You die!" started the human commander, but Vegeta incinerated him with an energy blast. "We will avenge you, Commander! Die, Xeno!" started soldiers of Imperium. Vegeta nuked the entire area with a powerful energy blast, roasting the brave Imperial soldiers. "Captain, we are reading energy levels on planet," said soldier to human captain in spaceship. "It cannot be! That explosion was greater than the Exterminatus! What could be so strong?" gasped the human captain. But then their eyes feasted on Vegeta coming toward them like a comet of rage and hate. "Emperor, save us!" gasped the captain, before being incinerated along with his ship and crew by an energy blast from Vegeta. "Now, I kill you all!" raged Vegeta. Who will Vegeta kill next? To be continued!
Okay, well, that was terrible. Okay, real quick. Why did they name the second, I assume, like, second highest character in that show, Dragon Ball, a word so close to vagina?
For one, that might be lost in translation. For two, everyone's named after food. So he's vegetable, and Goku, I think Goku or Gohan means rice, and Piccolo is green. He's a pickle. He's a pickle.
He's a pickle man.
Yeah.
That's, okay, I didn't know that. So that's good and bad that now I know something about anime, welcome. But now that I know more than I did before. That's garbage fan fiction. That is Dragon Ball Z insert fan fiction. Though my favorite part of it was the fact that whoever was inserting Dragon Ball Z into the Warhammer canon didn't really know anything about Warhammer 40,000.
I mean, I think I like the idea of burning filthy Xeno orphanages because you think all those poor orphans, if you will, and those Tyranid orphan organisms, if you will,
or orphaned orcs.
So yeah, that is fan fiction. Yeah. That is Vegeta meets Warhammer 40k, which I like the idea of him meeting Warhammer 40k like it's a guy.
Met Warhammer 40k.
Do you know Warhammer? I know Warhammer. He owes me $5. Wow. That is by Dreams of Iron on fanfiction.net.
You're a fucking pro at finding these terrible turd-like jewels.
The worst thing is how much gets left in the cut in Doom 4, because I have seen attack ships burning off the coast of Orion. Like, I've seen shit you do not want to see.
Okay, let's start getting the fuck out of here on this XL fucking fat boy episode here. Social media, find us on it. Facebook. Nope, don't find me on Facebook. But
Cam Hammer Show on Facebook. You'll find
Cam Hammer Show on Facebook. You can get us at us on Twitter. I am at DB_sleazy. He is at Brother SRM. And you can hear me tweet about, what have I been tweeting about lately? Oh yeah, getting sick and plane travel.
Ooh, nice. I've been tweeting really dumb jokes that I thought were very funny at 11 o'clock at night and maybe aren't in the morning. And yeah, that was
recently a few, like 2 or 3 Twitter tweets that you made that I didn't like.
Oh no, was it the one about how SmackDown is the longest running shonen anime on American television?
I don't remember seeing that one, but I feel like that's accurate. You know, somebody was talking about how like wrestling is just anime for rednecks.
I mean, I might not go as far as saying rednecks, but it is very much live action anime. They did the fusion dance from Dragon Ball Z last time I saw it on at the gym.
You know what the shitty part is?
What?
I like wrestling.
That's fine. You're allowed to. Are you telling me the guy who owns the Hulkamaniacs gang likes wrestling?
You can get at us at email. Email is a great way to talk to us. We need questions for We Make the Call. We want to talk to you about hobby stuff. We want to talk to you. We want to have like actual fun personal engagements with you. Contact at 40kbadcast.com. Tell us your story. We want to hear it.
And I've actually posted pictures of models recently, so if you go to cam2d.tumblr.com, you can see my new Goliaths and Empire dudes, and basically just a lot of Goliaths and Empire dudes.
If you feel like you have too much money and need to give away a small portion of it, well, do we have some deals? First off, you could buy some shirts. It's coming up on the holiday season, and I know your mom wants a perfect shirt.
Oh, she wants a 420k Badcast shirt. She'd like that too.
You know,
your cool weed mom.
The 420k Badcast shirt is just perfect for almost everybody. Dads, grads, moms,
burnouts,
Toms, all of them.
Tom Waits?
Oh my God. Okay, I would actually die if I saw a picture of Tom Waits wearing a 40k Badcast shirt. Tom Waits is my favorite musician of all time. I was lucky enough to go to a concert of his in 2006. It was at the Lincoln Theater in Chicago, or was it Lincoln Theater? That might be in DC. Doesn't matter. It was Lincoln something in Chicago. I sat behind a pillar. I couldn't see shit. And it was the best concert experience of my entire life. And if Tom Waits were to wear any of our shit, my body would combust.
I would make sure that picture was printed out, framed, and hung over my bed.
Yeah, I would. Well, I don't want to get too blue here on the show. Anyways, shirts, buy them, please. Also, Patreon, you can be part of, y'all, you don't know this. Well, maybe you do know this. You will know this, perhaps. But we're doing a double feature in recording today. It was just why all the beers have been being drank, at least on my end. We're going to record our Patreon subscriber only episode like right after this. And y'all, it is going to be a fucking barn burner. Like this is the shit. Like I don't want to mention it because it's so stupid, but it's so powerfully, amazingly stupid that it gives me strength and happiness. Though when I told my fiance about it, she looked at me and asked me what the fuck is wrong with me and why are you making so much goddamn noise on a holiday in our apartment? And I am sorry, Danielle. I love you, but I'm just trying to do the best I can.
Mine asked me why I'm doing this, and if she knew this about me when she started dating me, she might not have.
Well, Campbell, much will be revealed in this episode coming up. Like kind of a lot. I have some things about this thing we're talking about, but become a supporter. You can do it at the $5 range, gets you access to our Patreon subscriber-only content. You're a Badcast bad boy at that point. And if you think that you're a little bit cooler than a Badcast bad boy and you like, I don't know, having sex and doing cool stuff, like become a fuckboy. And it's just $6.90. The sex number, a joke amount of money. It's a paltry sum. So please.
Or $1 if you just want to, give us a nice howdy-do.
Howdy doody. Also, again, Adepticon coming up in March, and we're going to be there. If you're going to be there, we want to meet you. We want to talk to you. I will probably be wearing some sort of 40k Badcast shirt the entire time. It's a 4-day con. I have 4 40k Badcast shirts. You will see me in them, and just come up and say hi. I'm a big friendly man. Just come up and do it.
I intend to be wearing my Naruto headband for a not insignificant portion
the Naruto head. Oh, my God. Oh, with a friendly.
They're coming.
We're definitely wearing those in the friendly.
Yeah, we got it.
We should.
The only reason I'd ever want to do a team event is so I can wear one with you at the same time.
Should we, like, are there Naruto costumes? Should we do, he wore orange, right?
He wore orange.
He was like a prison
a great color for a ninja.
Like, basically?
Yeah, I think I'll pass on the whisker face paint.
We're gonna workshop that.
We'll take that off air.
It's almost time for us to become the Bayo con Dios Batos, but before that, we got to go. I'm actually remembering it this show. We got to go out on a quote. Campbell, do you have something for me?
I do. All mortal life is folly that does not feed the spirit.
Ain't that the fucking truth? We are the 40k Badcast. We are bad at 40k. You can too, and we'll see you in the next cartoon.